Okay, so every March 17th, what happens? The entire world just explodes in a sea of green, right? But what if I told you that behind all the parades and the parties, there's a story that's absolutely packed with surprises? I mean, the real history of St. Patrick's Day, it's way more dramatic than you'd ever guess. I mean, we all know the scene. You see stuff like this. The Chicago River dyed this just unbelievably vibrant green. It's wild, right? And it's basically the starting pistol for this huge day-long party.
And it's not just Chicago. Cities all over the world. We're talking Dublin, New York, even Sydney. They just erupt with these massive parades. It's all green hats, shamrocks everywhere. Just a huge global party celebrating everything Irish. You'd think it's been like this forever, right?
So here's the big question. What does any of this have to do with an actual saint from the 5th century? I mean, a Christian missionary from over 1,500 years ago. Well, let me tell you, the connection is probably not what you think it is.
All right, let's dive right in with what might be the biggest shocker of them all. The guy we know as the patron saint of Ireland, yeah, he wasn't actually Irish. He wasn't even born there. His story starts in a completely different place.
Get this. The man himself, St. Patrick, was born in Roman Britain, so what we call England or Wales today, sometime around the year 385. And his name? It wasn't even Patrick. It was Maewyn Succat. And you know, his family was Christian, but he wasn't really all that into it as a kid. But boy, was that about to change. Big time.
So, when he's just 16, his life gets completely flipped upside down. He's kidnapped by Irish raiders, dragged over to Ireland, and sold into slavery. For 6 long years, he's forced to work as a shepherd, completely alone. But here's where it gets crazy. He manages this incredible escape, walking almost 200 miles to the coast, and then, and this is the part that blows my mind, he decides to return to the very place where he was a slave.
And this right here is the key to his whole transformation. We know from his own writings that during all those lonely years out in the fields, he started to pray a lot. It was that incredibly traumatic time that forged this unbreakable faith, and that's what put him on the path to becoming a missionary.
So you can imagine, over hundreds of years, the real story of his life got tangled up with some pretty wild legends. So let's do a little myth-busting, shall we? We're going to separate the fact from the fiction, and we have to start with the most famous story of all.
Okay, you know the one I'm talking about. St. Patrick, the hero, chasing all the snakes out of Ireland. It's an amazing image, right? But the truth is, there were never any snakes in Ireland in the first place. Seriously. After the Ice Age, the geography just didn't allow for them. So what's the deal with the story? Well, it's pretty much seen as a metaphor. The snakes he drove out were actually the old pagan beliefs.
And of course, there's the shamrock. The legend goes that he used that little 3-leaf clover as a visual aid to explain the Holy Trinity. You know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all being one God. Now, we don't know for sure if that actually happened, but it doesn't even matter, does it? It just goes to show how a simple story can create such a powerful, lasting symbol for an entire nation.
Okay, so if the holiday started out as this quiet religious day for a missionary from the 400s, how in the world did it turn into the massive global party we have today? Well, believe it or not, that huge change, it didn't happen in Ireland. Nope, it happened on the other side of the ocean.
Picture this. The year is 1762. This is the moment everything changes. The very first St. Patrick's Day parade wasn't held in Dublin. It was in New York City. It was put on by Irish soldiers who were actually serving in the British Army. And that single event kicked off a brand new chapter for this holiday.
And the difference is just wild. Back in Ireland, March 17th was a serious religious day. You went to church, you had a meal with your family, and that was pretty much it. I mean, get this, the pubs in Ireland were legally closed on St. Patrick's Day until the 1970s. But in America, it became the total opposite. A huge, loud public party celebrating Irish pride.
So, why such a drastic change? Well, for Irish immigrants in America, especially the ones who had to flee during the awful Great Famine, this parade became so much more than just a party. It was a way for them to stand up and be seen, to show their strength and their numbers in a country where they were often looked down upon. It was a powerful, powerful statement of, we are here.
Okay, so now all the pieces are starting to come together, right? Let's take a look at the traditions we just assume were always there, like the color green, the food we eat, and yeah, even the leprechauns.
All right, you ready for another one? The original color associated with St. Patrick wasn't green, it was blue. There's even a specific shade called St. Patrick's Blue that was linked to Ireland for centuries. The whole green thing? That came way, way later.
So, why did green take over? Well, a few things all lined up. First, you've got the shamrock, which is green. Then you have Ireland itself, the Emerald Isle. But the real game changer was this. In the 1700s, green became the color of Irish nationalism, of the rebellion against the British. It turned into this super powerful political symbol, and from there, it just completely took over the holiday.
And the food. I mean, corned beef and cabbage just sounds like the most Irish meal ever, doesn't it? Nope. That's another Irish-American classic. Back in Ireland, the traditional meal was actually bacon and cabbage. But when immigrants came to cities like New York, corned beef was way cheaper, and it was something they could easily buy from their Jewish neighbors at the local delis. And a new tradition was born.
Okay, and we have to talk about the leprechauns. These little guys have nothing to do with St. Patrick himself. They come from super old Irish mythology. They just kind of got swept into the American celebration as a fun symbol of all things Irish. And the whole pinching thing, if you don't wear green, total American invention. The story goes that wearing green makes you invisible to leprechauns so they can't sneak up and pinch you. It's basically a schoolyard legend that's stuck.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's just this incredible journey, isn't it? A holiday that started as a quiet day of prayer for a man who was once a slave, and it somehow morphed into one of the biggest, most recognizable parties on the planet.
And today, it's all come to a head with this thing called the global greening. You've got world-famous landmarks, the Colosseum in Rome, the Sydney Opera House, all lit up bright green every March 17th. It just shows you the amazing power of a culture, carried across the world by its people, to leave its mark everywhere.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? The story of St. Patrick's Day proves that a holiday isn't some static thing set in stone. It's alive, it changes and evolves, shaped by history, by people moving across the world, and by new generations who celebrate it. It really makes you stop and think, what will the traditions we celebrate today look like a few hundred years from now?